So you got amongst them last night then, mate?
Yeah, good opening evening. We were having a little drink here, as you do on opening nights, and
like
in the gallery swim.
Yep.
And the right-hand rod roared off, and it was pretty obvious soon that it wasn't a carp, or didn't seem like a carp, and it turned out to be right. It was a sturgeon of about 45 pounds. It gave an incredible fight.
Did they go as hard as what Clive was saying?
Yeah.
He reckons absolutely mental.
Yeah. The rods that I'm using are big fish rods, and I think, with anything less powerful and forgiving as they are, I'd have been struggling, because a couple of times I had the fish under my feet,
right,
and it just went away and took 30-40 yards of line, and there was nothing you could do with it. Difficult to net. Luckily, if I'd been by myself, I'd have really struggled in the dark, but there were, as you know, plenty of us here.
Because that's the thing the boys said. They said, we do not want a sturgeon at night. And of course, you went and had one at night.
Lucky Jack, yeah. But,
excellent.
We didn't measure it. I suppose we should have done in the excitement. Its length, that is. But it must have been 4.5 feet.
4.5, 5 foot, something like that.
And getting it in a 42-inch net was a bit of a struggle for the guy who was netting it. But it all worked, and it was a first for me as well.
Yeah, nice one, mate.
We've achieved that already.
Yeah, well done.
I thought the session was going to start well, because within 20 minutes of being here, I had a take out on the far margin, but unfortunately it dropped off.
Right. Did you actually feel the fish? Or
Yeah. It was on for a little while. I don't quite know what happened. I don't know what it was or how big it was, but then at 3 o'clock this morning, off they went again, and it was bloody cold, and it was the last thing I really needed, was to get out of bed, but it was worth it in the end.
It went to -5, didn't it, apparently?
It certainly did, yeah. Thick frost, but it was a 32-pound mirror.
Excellent, mate.
Which I sacked up, although there's no sacking here. John, the owner, kindly said, for the video's sake, he'd let us sack up.
Right.
And not knowing how the week's going to progress, I sacked that one up. Had a bit of tail damage, which between us we've been discussing. We're not really sure whether it had actually been docked in a previous life.
Where else.
Or whether it was in fact fin rot, but
right.
We're not sure. It was quite badly damaged, but apart from that, the fish was perfect.
Excellent.
And that went well as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. It's a really nice lake though, mate, isn't it?
It's a lovely lake, yeah. But what really staggers me is how much he's achieved around it in such a short time. Speaking of John yesterday, the first time I'd met him, he's only had it a year, and apparently it was completely overgrown when he bought it. And you look round now, I mean, the swims are laid out nicely.
Yeah.
The grass is all cut short.
Yeah.
If you look where my bivvy is, it's in a purpose-made enclosure. You can still get the pegs in. I can't speak highly enough.
No, he's done a really good job.
Yeah,
and none of that, it's full of pucker carp as well, isn't it? He's got some really big fish in here.
We hope to find out more about that. Yeah.
350s, 35, 40s. Yeah, I mean, that 35, 40s, that's, you just can't get your head around that really, can you?
And a hat full of 30s.
Yeah.
All it leaves is for our pest controller down the end there to join the sturgeon club and catch something over 14 pounds, but apart from that will be okay.
Yeah. Excellent, mate. We know you guys are all agents for various tackle manufacturers. When you come away on a fishing trip like this, is it purely pleasure?
Well, there's a great degree of that in a trip like this, but we do use it to firstly test new pieces of kit, but also it's beneficial in actually selling, to be able to say that you've used a piece of kit, you caught fish on it, and show an understanding of the equipment that you sell. So to that degree there is a business element.
Sure.
And we, as I say, we do have kit with us which is brand new. For instance, this hook link, which is Corda's new coated hook link, coated in fluorocarbon. Which has obvious benefits in cutting down its visibility. And indeed these hooks, this hook is one of Danny Fairbrass's new range at Corda.
Is that the wide gate you've got on there?
The wide gate, size 6 that I've got on there. The rest, I mean, that rig is typical of the sort of rig that I would use. I use coated hook rigs all the time pretty well now.
Right.
And if it's a bottom bait, I leave them as they are. If I'm using pop-ups, then I'll just nick it.
Sure.
So that it forms a hinge. I use lead core a lot in the UK at range. Over here I'd probably use tubing as well. Just depends what comes out the bag first. I don't think in France certainly there's any necessity to have any very radical rigs, or the simpler the better. One thing I'm very keen on using is this flexi ring swivel. What it does is give more flexibility to the rig, but also it allows the bait and the hook link to fold back on the cast, reduces tangles, makes it fly truer and further.
Sure. Is that the rig you was using last night?
No, I wasn't, because clearly this is brand new, and I wanted to tie some up, and really there wasn't time yesterday to do that, so I used existing rigs. In fact, the hooks that I have been using are these Partridge F4s, which I've been very pleased with. Again, I had the sturgeon on one of those last night, but I will be using these.
So what sort of pattern are these Partridge F4s?
I'll show you. Fairly classical shape, very light but very strong, in this green colour, which I don't think has any bearing on anything really. But I've been using them for probably 2.5 years now. They're very sharp, and in fact I put one through one of my fingers a couple of weeks ago, but it was fairly easy to push through and get out. Lost very few fish on them, been very pleased with them. I've only ever straightened one of them out.
So they are a big fish hook then, basically?
Big fish hook, yeah, and that's the smallest hook they do in this pattern, which is a 6, which is what I use in the UK. Over here I use 6s and 4s, but last night it was on a 6, and that was a 45-pound sturgeon, so I can't say fairer than that really.
So what hook link material was you using?
I was using the Stealth that Gardner markets for Suffolk last night. It's softer than this. The coating strips off more easily, which in a lot of ways is a disadvantage, but it's got very little memory, and I've been very pleased with that. And having said that, this looks like it's going to work really well. Mainline GR60 I use pretty well exclusively now. I use some of the Daiwa Infinity Duo for real long range work sometimes, but as an all-round line I don't think you can beat this really. It's never let me down.
So do you never use braid when you're in France? Because obviously a lot of people now are switching over to braid right through.
No, I think you've got two schools of thought, and guys like Lee Jackson who I've fished with and Martin Locke are very keen on braid. You either love it or hate it. I'm a bit anti. I don't like the lack of flexibility and lack of safety it gives you. There's no margin for error in my view with it, you know. I've seen a lot of breakages on it, so I tend to stick with good old mono where you've got a bit of stretch.